So we got a brand new one today. Ralph Lauren just came out with Polo Blue Parfum. This is the latest and perhaps the strongest version of this fragrance on the market. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on it, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin this video and I tell you all about the brand new 2022 release by Ralph Lauren, Polo Blue Parfum, and I make comparisons, tell you about the note breakdown, the performance, so on and so forth, I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Make sure to hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do upload new videos on this channel, and of course, give this video a thumbs up by the end of the video if you take something of value from today's episode. Don't forget though, it's very important. So here we have the latest and perhaps the strongest version of this fragrance, and one of the things that the original Polo Blue is known for is the fact that it has this salty, fresh, oceanic cucumber and citrus-like quality that I just think is so, casual and so refreshing for the summertime. And of course, as we're getting into the hotter weather, we see that fragrances like that almost become necessary, right? Like you can't necessarily wear your balsams and your woods and your smokes because those fragrances are a little bit heavy for this time of the year. Well, this fragrance is a reinvention of that classic DNA because it has vetiver, clary sage, lavender, mandarin. So there's a lot of ingredients in here that might be found in the original, but it also kind of does things in a 2022 way. And I say that because it is sort of giving into one of the trends that we've seen over the past year and a half, and that is the use of clary sage. And I must say that there is a lot of it in this fragrance. Well, in any case, I'm going to tell you my thoughts about this fragrance, whether I like it, I love it, or I hate it. But let's go ahead and start things off with the presentation. So like I mentioned earlier on, this fragrance does have this clary sage note in here. And one thing that you'll see among many designer fragrances, especially those released in the year 2022 or late 2021, is you'll notice that they have this lavender and clary sage combination. And one thing I'll say is I think the reason for that is because a lot of people have become quite disenchanted or perhaps even disconcerted with the fact that there's this overabundance of sweet tonka bean and vanilla heavy fragrances on the designer side of things. You know what I'm talking about. The Eros Parfum by Versace or Invictus Legend, so on and so forth. Even Valentino with a lot of the, Uomo fragrances. So in any case, I think what we're seeing is a trend of fragrances being released that kind of have this brighter, fresher, yet aromatic and professional, almost like a contemporary fougere vibe to them. And I personally like that. I like the direction that fragrances are going in. The only thing that I think is missing is the originality. So it's nice to have the clary sage and the lavender, but just make sure that it does things in a way that's different from other fragrances. And I feel like this fragrance does do that. And so I do have to pay compliments to this fragrance. It opens up with this bright citrusy component. I know mandarin is listed as an ingredient. I do get this sort of nondescript citrusy freshness in the opening, which is kind of nice. And then as it starts to dry down is when the aromatic properties really come into full play. So you have the lavender, the clary sage, and it just leaves you feeling like a very well-groomed gentleman, very bright, contemporary. It has this modern aesthetic about it. It doesn't smell dated or antiquated in any way. And then as it starts to dry down, you have this clean, professional vetiver note, in addition to some woods that are not, overly strong, or they don't dominate, the composition in any way. Now, one thing that I do enjoy about this fragrance is how long that freshness lasts. And a lot of fragrances, when you get that citrusy opening, you'll get it for like 5, 10, 15 minutes. This fragrance, I think it's the citrusy nature in the opening, in addition to that fresh jasmine ingredient that's in the heart, that keeps the freshness alive for a little bit longer. And by a little bit, I mean maybe like 45 minutes, right? So 45 plus the 15, you'll get an hour's worth of freshness, which is really, really nice. So I've actually been wearing this one to work for the past couple of days, and I've gotten a few compliments from colleagues. Nothing exorbitant. They didn't say, oh my God, you smell incredible. They just said, oh, you smell nice today, right? Which is a really nice sort of friendly compliment and just a way of acknowledging that they perceive that I am indeed wearing a fragrance. And so I think this is going to be great for the office. I think this is a great modern 2022 reinvention of that Polo blue DNA, all the while not abandoning what made the original so great. And I think, you know, with all of these flankers being released, you know, the ultra blue and all these other flankers, that's kind of a testament to the success of the line, right? So I know Ralph Lauren, they had the numbered series, didn't do so well. Polo green, which did very well, but was very iconic of that decade. And then Polo blue continues to do well. Polo black, and on some level, continues to do well. So with this fragrance, I personally do enjoy it. I think this is a great flanker of the original. The original still smells great to me. I love Polo blue. I love that cucumber-like freshness while not making it as strong or as authentic of a cucumber ingredient as like Roses on Ice by Kilian Paris. That's like cucumber salad in my opinion. But this fragrance is great. Modern, fresh, professional, office setting, but still keeping it casual. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a suit and tie professional kind of a fragrance. It's more of like a polo and khakis kind of a professional fragrance, kind of like a business casual, if you will. So I enjoy this one. I think it's going to be received rather well. And this is one that I will probably even leave in my classroom so that I can spray it on a more ongoing and consistent basis, because I think it works really well in that kind of an environment. Very accessible and very friendly DNA. I'm a fan. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, they did what they were supposed to do. They created a flanker of a fragrance that also remotely smells like the original while not completely reinventing it, but making subtle changes that modernize it and make it more suitable to the 2022 olfactive aesthetic, right? Which is what we're seeing with the lavender and the clary sage. And there's this one accord that's been circulating among many releases of this year, or of the past 365 days, I should say. So very well done. It's a nice nod and an homage to the original. The overall smell, incredibly pleasant. It has that compliment getting DNA to it, so I do admire it for that. Longevity, you're gonna get 6 to 7 hours. I know a lot of times the concentration is indicative of how many hours you're going to get from it. With Parfum written on the label, you would expect 10 hours, but it is a lighter DNA. So you're going to get anywhere between 6 and 7 hours, but the past few days have been particularly warm, and so I'm sure that that has a lot to do with it. In terms of the projection, it projected really well for the first hour and a half to 2 hours, keeping in mind that that citrusy freshness lasts for like the first hour of application. So it does actually do very well. And then after a while, the lavender, the jasmine, and the clary sage seem to take over the show. In terms of the versatility, hotter weather is the best time to wear it, but you can wear this one on a warm fall evening or something like that. I can totally picture that. It is marketed for men, and I do think it has this sort of modern masculine aesthetic to it. And then I think this one is a bit more casual than it is formal, but it does give off a very well-groomed professional vibe. And so you can wear this in an office setting, no problem. And this will appeal to anybody of any age. In terms of the presentation, I like the darker, more opaque look to the bottle, and it is a bit different in terms of the shape, but I do have the little baby size. I think it's 1.36 ounces or something like that. I purchased way too many fragrances. I had the option of buying the full-size bottle, if you will, but I said, the tiny little bottle will serve me well, especially for this review. And if I do deplete it, then I'm just going to go ahead and repurchase, right? I have no problems doing that, especially if it's a fragrance I love. So my final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are a fan of the original Polo Blue, but you want to sort of abandon that vibe, you know, that is characteristic of the decade in which it came out. You want to adopt something that's a bit more modern while still having that contemporary freshness, and you don't mind this clary sage lavender trend that's been happening in the designer industry as of late, I would say check it out. I think you have nothing to lose. Especially, I purchased this one from Macy's online. It arrived at my doorstep 2 days later. So if you have a Macy's in your area or any other major department store that carries it, by all means, go out there, try it. I hope you love it. Thank you for joining me today. That was my review of the brand new 2022 release by Ralph Lauren, Polo Blue Parfum. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below, or also just leave a comment down below and let me know which Ralph Lauren fragrance is your favorite. Do you enjoy Polo Black? Do you enjoy Double Black? That was one of my favorites. Do you, with the mango note? Do you enjoy Polo Red, Red Extreme, so on and so forth? Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the bell, subscribe to the channel. Love you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.